One of the key outcomes from the Glasgow summit is the push for countries like Australia to revisit their near-term climate commitments. Australia has already shifted its 2030 commitment from 26 to 28%. It projects to get to 35%. But despite global pressure, the Morrison government insists Australia's 2030 emissions target is fixed at 26 to 28%, even if it's projected to reach even higher. Chief Anchor Kieran Gilbert reports.
For the first time, the nations of the world have agreed to a declaration specifically mentioning the phasing down of a fossil fuel, specifically coal. And at the Glasgow talks, it's also called on all nations that haven't upped their 2030 target to do so sooner, in fact, by the end of next year, and that includes Australia.
Will Australia update it next year? Is that what we've agreed to in Glasgow?
Look, I'll let others speak to the text of it, but the advice I have is that we have a clear target, and what we change is our projections.
Well, if the Australian government has signed up to an increased target for 2022, they need to tell the Australian people before the next election what that target is.
Last week, we reported the New South Wales government signed on to a UN declaration to accelerate the transition to zero-emission vehicles. Well, now we can confirm the federal government has allowed that to stand, and both Tasmania and South Australia have joined the Perrottet government in signing on to that declaration. Also today, some greater clarity on how much it would have cost if Australia had not signed up to the 2050 net zero. And the Treasurer says it would have cost the nation billions of dollars.
What Treasury Central scenario was that you could see a 100 basis point increase in the cost of capital as a result of not being part of a broader effort to reduce emissions in the way that we are.
With the COP26 declaration and the requirement on countries, including Australia, to revisit the 2030 targets by the end of next year, that means this remains a live issue and one very much relevant to the election campaign.